A hush lay over the great hall of Riverrun like a velvet pall, muting torch flame and dulling every footfall. Robb Stark sat the high seat beneath House Tully's silver trout, yet the banners of the dire wolf and the trout together could not quiet the restless stir in his chest. Rain whispered at the arrow slits, the soft patter of an autumn shower passing through the riverlands, but to Robb it sounded like the tapping of ghosts upon a coffin lid. He had sent his mother from the room first, gentle words, cloaked in courtesy, that concealed the iron decision already clenched within his heart. Catelyn had read it in his eyes, and fear had flared in hers, but she had obeyed her king. So had his uncles Edmure and Brynden, though the Blackfish's parting glance had been a challenge. Now only Robb remained with Maester Vyman, Ser Wendell Manderly, Lord Jason Mallister, and Galbart Glover, men sworn to his cause, men he trusted to weigh the impossible. On the trestle table before them lay 2 scrolls, one penned in Robb's own hand, fragrant still with the dusting of fine sand, the other a crude sheet of stiff, salt-stained parchment, the letters scratched in iron gall by some iron-born scribe aboard Lord Balon Greyjoy's flagship, the Black Wind. There was no mistaking the sea reek that clung to the parchment, nor the audacity of the seal pressed into its wax. A kraken devouring a dire wolf. Robb's knuckles whitened. He thought it amusing, no doubt, he said, voice low, to show me my own house swallowed whole, or meant it as warning, Mallister offered. His hawk eyes glinted with earned cynicism. Greyjoys fancy their reach long, though tides ever turn. That seal is nothing, Galbart Glover growled, hammer-thick fingers flexing beside his wine cup. Let us break their fleet in the stony shore and brand the kraken upon their corpses. Robb might have smiled once at such raw northern ferocity, but war had ground the quick laughter from him. Steel answers steel, he said. Yet a king must weigh more than arms. He must weigh tomorrows. He looked at each man in turn. And tomorrows are written in the marriages we make. Silence. Only the rain. Vyman cleared his throat. Their proposal, stark as it is. The maester allowed himself a small, sorrowing smile at his own pun, then hurried on. It calls for a union between your grace and Lord Balon's daughter, the Lady Asha, styled Yara in the Southron's tongues. She is no meek maid, Ser Wendell chuckled, cheeks flushed with wine and the lingering heat of the hearth. They say she commands her own longship. Captains fear her as they do any reaver. Robb had heard the tales as well, of black wind, of silent raids on fishing hamlets, of Asha Greyjoy's laughter echoing over burning decks. Do you think me blind to what I risk? He asked, but there was no rebuke in his voice, only a tight wound resolve. I have no brothers left save a boy of 8 across 100 leagues and another who may already lay in a grave. My uncle Renly is dead, Stannis' enemy, Joffrey a monster. Baratheon blood is spilt to mud. Our alliances are wind-tossed banners. Yet the sea, he touched the salt-stained scroll. The sea commands its own allegiance. Lord Jason dipped his head, silver hair brushing a shoulder. You would wager the North on a kraken's good faith? I would wager a lifetime on the safety of my people, Robb answered. Balon Greyjoy offers ships enough to harry Lannister coasts, to fence the Golden Tooth in fire. He offers an end to reavings upon the stony shore and the rills. He swears he will call himself king of the salt and rock, granting the North dominion on land if we grant the Iron Islands their ebbing tides unchecked. And he offers you his daughter, Vyman said gently. Robb felt the words settle like chainmail across his shoulders, weighty but familiar. He offers me his daughter. He closed his eyes and saw not the kraken but the direwolf, his own direwolf Grey Wind, pacing restless outside the gatehouse. And he saw Jane Westerling, dark hair spread upon a pillow, the memory of her kindness in the crowded keep of the crag, her tears for the fallen, the way she had soothed his fever when the battle fumes yet clouded his lungs. A king who had broken honor once must choose well his path to mend it. He opened his fist. I have written acceptance. The first scroll bore the direwolf seal. If I sign, we sail beside the kraken. If I refuse, we fight them, and all the seas between Pike and White Harbor may bleed. Asha Greyjoy will come to Riverrun under banner of peace. She will kneel and take by law what her folk have taken by axe. And I, he drew breath, I will stand a husband before gods old and new. None answered at once. Rain thickened, a curtain upon the stone walls. Finally Lord Mallister spoke. Your Grace, I have fought Greyjoys these 30 years. Their oaths last no longer than a sudden squall. But a daughter's pride, especially one such as Asha, may outlive her sire's ambition. She could be the chain that binds them, Galbart spat, or the blade that cuts it. Blades can guard as well as slay, Ser Wendell reasoned. And recall that the young wolf needs ships. We cannot swim to Casterly Rock. Robb stood. Then it is done. He slid the quill from the inkwell, the black ink glistening like a pool in moonlight. For House Stark, for the North. And with a single stroke he signed, Robb of House Stark, King in the North and Trident. Catelyn Stark found him on the ramparts as dusk bled across the west. The air smelled of wet stone and peat smoke, and banners whipped overhead, sodden but defiant. She came cloaked against the chill, gray hood drawn up, yet her eyes pierced the gloom like candles in a crypt. You have decided, she said. It was not a question. Robb nodded, gaze fixed upon the Tully banners drooping above the gatehouse. I signed at sunset. Catelyn's breath hitched, small and sharp, but her voice remained steady. Asha Greyjoy, a woman of the Isles, raised to salt and iron. Balon's heir, Balon's sword, he corrected. She is as much his weapon as Victarion's hammer. He folded his arms. I need weapons. Catelyn stepped beside him, palms upon the battlement's slick stone. You need allies, she murmured. Allies who honor the old bonds of men, not the drowned gods' half-remembered hardships. Robb did not flinch. Joffrey sits a stolen throne, and Lord Tywin commands a host thrice my number. Every raven bears some new ill omen. A foot of snow fallen in the neck, fever in White Harbor, Karstark men deserting. I must bind shattered shields, mother. I must win this war before winter devours the fields. She closed her eyes. Your father once spoke those words. He almost reached for her, but his gauntlets were cold with rain. Then let them remind you why I do this. Catelyn's shoulders rose in a mute sigh. After a long moment she looked at her son, and in her gaze he read both love and a sorrow deeper than any mote. When Asha comes, she said, I will greet her as daughter, but I will watch her as wolf. Robb managed the ghost of a smile. As will I. The girl called Yara in the Greenlands arrived beneath banners of black and gold. Her fleet anchor-mooted on the tumblestone at dawn. 30 longships carved like leviathans breaching the river's edge. Oarmasters thumped their drums while crows circled the mast-tops. Riverrun's archers knocked arrows until Robb ordered them to still their bows. Only then did the longboats glide across the misted water. Asha Greyjoy strode ashore in mail of blackened steel, krakens wrought in bronze upon her shoulders, a reaver's cutlass at her hip. Her hair was the color of old ropes washed by sun and brine, cropped to her jaw, her eyes a bright gray as dawn upon an empty sea. She wore no gown, no diadem, only a cloak of rough-spun sealskin clasped by a shard of driftglass. She paused at the riverbank, boots sinking in mud, and looked up at Riverrun's looming walls. A single brow arched as if she weighed them on invisible scales. Then she spat into the water, one glob for the drowned god, and strode forward. Robb met her in the outer bailey, flanked by Great John Umber and Ser Brynden Tully. Asha stopped 2 sword lengths away, hands on hips. So, she said, voice smooth as sea-worn stones, the wolf wears a crown. The kraken would braid its tentacles with a wolf's tail, Robb answered. She laughed, the sound more wind than mirth. Better knots than broken spars. I am come as your bride, if word is wind true. He nodded. Robb Stark. You will have both my name and my snow. Asha's gaze flicked past him to gray wind pacing in the courtyard, hackles raised. I prefer ice to ash, she said. Then she strode closer, close enough that the sense of salt and iron and rain mingled. But promises first. Have you ships for me? Robb inclined his head to Maester Vyman, who stepped forward with 2 scrolls. The signed marriage pact and a charter granting the Iron Islands sovereignty of the seas west of Bear Isle in exchange for allegiance and 15 score longships to the northern cause. Asha scanned the parchment, eyes darting swift as schooling fish. My father will carve this in pike stone, she said. Swear it before the drowned god, and he will keep tide honor. Swear it before the old gods, Robb countered. And I will keep blood honor. Asha's mouth quirked. Perhaps we each may kneel at shrines the other cannot see. She signed her name with a flourish, Asha Pike Reaver Greyjoy. Then, without preamble, she placed her cutlass at Robb's feet. Take this and bind me to your hearth. I will carve your enemies' hearts as easy. Robb bent and took the blade. A hush fell. The courtyard witnessed an unspoken vow. Steel passed from sea to snow, salt to stone. When he straightened, Asha took his hand. Her fingers were calloused, strong. She squeezed once, hard enough to hurt, then released. So, husband, she said, show me this castle I must haunt. That night, the great hall shook with a feast unlike any Riverrun had seen since Aegon's dragons first cast shadow on the Trident. Northmen drank with iron men. Manderly songsmiths and reaver flutists traded shanties beneath swinging candelabras. There were spiced crabs and venison haunches, barrels of Cape Kraken black ale and sweet onion beer from White Harbor. The Blackfish watched in wary silence as Asha bested Great John Umber in an arm wrestle, then kissed his fist for courtesy. Galbart Glover threw dice with drowned priests while Lady Stark sat stiff beside her son, hands folded about a cup of watered wine. Robb moved among his lords, smiling, sharing jests, yet all the while his heart beat a war drum rhythm. He felt Asha's presence as keenly as Grey Wind's shadow. Wherever she strode, the hall seemed to tilt a little. At last she cornered him near the dais, flagon in hand. What think you, Stark? She asked, eyes alight. Have I tamed your pups? Men are not pups, he said. Yet you hold their leashes. So, her grin glinted. Will you hold mine? She drank deep, wiped her mouth upon her sleeve. I will not be leashed, Robb Stark. Tie me too tight, and I bite. Robb met her gaze. A wolf bites too. Lightning flared beyond the high windows, white and sudden. Asha's laughter echoed after the thunder. We shall see which jaws are sharper. She turned, cloak swirling, and strode toward the minstrels, calling for a saltwife's lament turned wedding jig. Robb watched her a moment, then felt a soft presence at his elbow. Catelyn. She will not obey, she whispered. She need not obey, he murmured back. She must only stand beside. Beside is not behind, his mother warned. Robb's jaw tightened. I would sooner walk with a sword at my side than at my back. Catelyn sighed, old grief in the sound. Then may the seven shield us all. Days unfurled, each like a banner in contrary wind. Asha inspected Riverrun's docks, critiqued the width of the quay, the warp of the mooring posts. She mocked the night's bright plate, whispering to Robb that steel should drink sea brine before blood. Yet she laughed easily, too, teaching Squire Olivar fry a sailor's knot that saved a loose yardarm in a sudden gale, praising the Blackfish's bowmanship when he split a cedar target likened to a Lannister head. Robb watched her with something between wonder and wariness. He found her one dawn at the archery butts, loosing shafts with a weirwood longbow. Her draw was short but swift, arrows hammering the center like spear points on a shield. You shoot well, he called. She glanced back. I raid better. He approached. Teach me. Her brow rose. Teach a wolf to swim? All right, but mind the undertow. She handed him the bow, rearranged his stance with firm hands. Her fingers on his forearm were cool, her breath warm at his ear. Feel the string hum, she said. That hum is the sea. Ride it. Robb loosed. The arrow struck outer ring. Asha laughed, low and throaty. The sea rejects you, she said. Yet if you court her, she may relent. He tried again, adjusting as she guided. The second shaft lodged nearer the center. She nodded, approving. Better. Perhaps you are half Kraken already. Gray wind patted near, ears flat, scenting her salt-rich cloak. Asha knelt and met the direwolf's golden gaze without flinching. She offered an empty palm. After a tense breath, Gray wind huffed and nudged her wrist. Asha grinned. There, see? Even ghosts of ice bow to salt maidens. Robb's heart thudded. He bows to no one. He yields because I did not fear. She rose. Remember, husband, the wedding was set for the first full moon of winter, 6 weeks hence. Ravens flew to Pike bearing Robb's charter and Asha's blade vow. Others sped to White Harbor, to Winterfell's ragged garrison, to Bear Island and the Wolfswood, summoning North Lords to Riverrun for the binding of sea and snow. But war did not pause for nuptials. Scouts returned with word that Tywin Lannister marched from Harrenhal with 40,000, banners of crimson and gold like a bloody sunrise on the horizon. Across the sea, Balon Greyjoy's fleet had taken Deepwood Motte, but his war captains clamored for fresh spoils while his Queen Reavers raided the Mander. All might yet unravel before vows could be spoken. Robb convened his war council in the solar beneath the rookery. Candlelight flickered over maps weighted with river stones. We must strike the Lannisters before they join with the forces at the Golden Tooth, he said. If we hold the fords of the Red Fork, we may trap Tywin between river and ruin. And where will your Kraken stand? Asked Lord Roose Bolton, pale as the wax dripping from the sconces. He had come south at last, silent as snowfall, and his voice carried winter's chill. Robb looked to Asha, seated cross-legged upon a bench, polishing a dirk with an oiled rag. She did not look up. My fleet will harry their supply, burn every grain barge from Lannisport to Maidenpool, she said, while my longships land raiders to sever roads. Tywin's lions will march on empty bellies, and lions starving do not roar, they whimper. Great John Umber thumped a fist. Well-spoken, salt wife. Asha's head jerked, eyes narrowing. Salt wife? I am queen before I am wife. The hall stilled. Robb lifted a hand. Queen of the Iron Islands, he said, and after the full moon, queen of the north as well. Roose's pale lips curved. 2 crowns upon 1 queen. The realm grows rich indeed. Asha tossed the dirk, caught it by the blade, and stabbed it into the map where the red fork bent like a sickle. We grow rich in blood, she said. Pray your lords do not flinch when the tide reaches their door. Bolton's eyes gleamed. The dread fort never flinches. Robb placed his palm atop the map, eclipsing the dirk. Enough. We sail at sunrise. Umber and Manderley south to the Blue Fork, Bolton to the Weeping Water, Asha's Reavers to Maidenpool. I ride with the River Lords to the Twins to secure Lord Walder's acquiescence. He felt a shadow pass his heart at the mention of the Twins, but he brushed it aside. When we return, we wed. Asha rose. If you return, she corrected. He met her gaze. I will. Night fell, moonless. Riverrun's courtyards were alive with preparations. Smiths hammering iron hoops around cart wheels, squires sharpening sword edges, ravens beating black wings into the dark. Robb stalked the battlements one last time before sleep. Asha appeared beside him as though woven from shadows. You should rest, he said. She shrugged. Salt in my blood keeps me wakeful on land. She leaned her elbows on the parapet. My father will rage when he learns I signed without his hand upon mine. Robb frowned. Will he rescind? Balon Greyjoy rescinds nothing. He will curse, then boast he taught his daughter to seize fortune. Still, you must know, he is a rock, weather-cracked. The sea gnaws him daily. Should he die, I rule. And you would keep our pact? I would keep what serves me. Asha's tone was not cruel, only frank. If you prove weak, I will seek other storms. If you prove strong. She turned to him, eyes shining silver in starlight. Then we will burn the world together. Robb felt the chill wind cut through his cloak, yet heat flared in his chest. I do not wish to burn the world. Asha tilted her head. Then why take a Kraken bride? To save the North. And when the North is saved? He looked out across the dark waters of the Tumblestone, listening to the hush between waves. Somewhere below, gray wind howled, a lonely note that made the hairs on Robb's neck rise. Then, he said softly, "I might learn to live." Asha studied him a long breath. "We Ironborn say what is dead may never die," she murmured. "But perhaps what lives may forget to breathe." She reached out and traced the scar upon his forearm where an arrow had sliced flesh at Oxcross. "Breathe, Wolf." He caught her hand. "After the vows," he whispered. Her smile was brief and startling. "After the war," she whispered back and slipped away, leaving salt-scented air and unanswered questions behind. Morning came raw and reckoning. The young wolf rode from Riverrun at the head of 2,000 horse, banners snapping like whips in the biting wind. Behind them marched pikemen and men-at-arms, their steps drumming a dirge upon the muddy road. Robb wore the pelt of a white direwolf across his shoulders. At his belt hung Asha's cutlass beside his own long sword. Gray wind loped alongside, eyes blazing. Asha stood upon the quay, arms folded, watching his column dwindle into drizzle. She did not wave. Ironborn did not wave farewell to men who courted ground war. Instead, she turned to her captains, barked orders, and within the hour 30 longships rode north upon the Red Fork, sails furled tight, paddles dipping in perfect rhythm. Those left on the walls remarked that the krakens moved like black arrows loosed from a giant's bow. Catelyn Stark watched both wolf and kraken depart, her heart a ship in storm. She whispered a prayer to the maiden for her son, to the warrior for his men, and to the mother for the bride who would share his bed. In her mind she saw twin fates. In one, Robb returned crowned in victory, Asha beside him, their realms united by both blood and salt. In the other, she saw Riverrun's halls echoing with silence, a cutlass rusting in dust, and the kraken's seal triumphant over a broken direwolf. She clutched the rampart stone until her nails split. "Protect him," she begged. Whether of gods or ghosts she did not know. 3 days' march brought Robb's host to the Green Fork, where the twins loomed gray and damp. Against slate sky, Walder Frey greeted them from the west tower with the brittle courtesy of a man who weighed alliances in coin and kin. Robb rode to the drawbridge beneath dripping banners, his cloak sodden, but his resolve dry as bones. Lord Walder shuffled forward, a throng of sons and bastards trailing like ducklings. "King in the north," he croaked, spittle flecking his beard. "You return, tail between legs, yet with no bride of mine upon your saddle." Robb dismounted. "I return to cross your bridge." He spoke evenly, though his heart pounded like a kettle drum. "And to offer fresh bonds of blood and honor." The old lord's eyes glimmered. "Honor? You spat upon mine when you wed some westerling whelp." Robb felt the words like a lance, but he did not recoil. "I come now as husband to Asha Greyjoy, soon Queen of the North. She carries salt and iron, but also 30 ships to guard your crossing. Marry one of your granddaughters to my cousin Edwin Stark." "Edwin? I have no Edwin Stark." Robb's lips twitched. "You will. I shall legitimize Eddard Snow of Barrowton, son of my late Uncle Brandon Squire. A Stark of lesser line, yet Stark still." Walder Frey sniffed, wet and wanting. "A lesser bone tossed to an old dog? A pact between river and sea," Robb countered. "Greyjoy ships will escort Frey merchants to Bravos. In exchange, Frey levies march under my banner south. Tywin Lannister approaches. You may bar your gates and hide, or you may rise a lord of war." The old man's gaze darted like a sparrow. He licked cracked lips. "And what of my missing bride price? What of Lady Jane's insult?" Robb dropped to one knee upon the rain-soaked boards. "Name your restitution," he said, voice rough. "Gold? Grain? Garrison? Whatever coin you deem fit." Walder Frey's mouth twisted slowly. "Coin I have. Grain I will have, if your krakens cease raiding the Mander." "They will. I want names," Frey hissed. "Names in my halls. Hostages to your good conduct." Robb rose. "Take Ser Wendell Manderly and Ser Reynold Westerling as guests beneath your roof, until war's end." And your dire wolf? Robb's smile was winter-thin. Ask that, and you insult the old gods. Walder Frey cackled. I care little for sticks in snow, but he stretched a liver-spotted hand. Done then, cross Wolf King, and when you wed your salt queen, send me word, so I may piss in joy upon Lannister bones. Robb clasped the offered hand, though bile stung his throat. Across the river the banners of House Frey half trembled, half preened in the wet wind, and Robb Stark wondered which would fall first, steel or faith. Far away upon the tumblestone, dawn found Asha Greyjoy standing astride the prow of Black Wind. Spray beaded her cheeks like seawater diamonds. Ahead, the coast of the Reach flickered in and out of fog. She heard the gulls cry, smelled the smoke of some distant hearth, and tasted war on the air. Hoist the Kraken, she commanded. No quarter. Sails bloomed black. Drums thundered. As oars rose and fell in unison, Asha lifted her dirk and traced with its point the rough curve of the horizon. I will carve a kingdom from these waves, she whispered, and Robb Stark will hold the land or drown. Behind her, the Ironborn roared, a sound like breaking surf. Their voices carried across water to sleeping villages, to merchant cogs anchored at quiet wharves, to the frightened hearts of fisherfolk who woke to see a dark armada stealing dawn. And somewhere between river and sea, in the murk where tides met the blood-swelled red fork, fate tightened its unseen knots. Wolves howled in distant forests. Krakens stirred in the deeps. Lions crouched behind red walls, licking their golden claws. Storm was coming, storm forged of salt, snow, and steel, and at its heart a marriage pact written on parchment yet etched in bone. Robb Stark felt the storm's first tremor as his host crossed the southern bridge of the Twins. Rain ceased, but thunder lingered like a promise. Grey Wind raised his muzzle, growling at clouds. The young wolf touched the hilt of Asha's cutlass, and for an instant he felt the pulse of distant waves beneath his feet. He looked south, toward the fields where lions gathered. He looked west, where the Kraken sailed. He looked inward, where the memory of Jane's smile warred with the image of Asha's eyes, gray as mist. And he whispered a vow that only the wind heard. I will hold the north, whatever the price. Grey Wind snarled, and the march resumed. The game was set. Rain had ceased, leaving the green fork swollen and mud-brown, a sluggish python coiling across the flat meadows of the Trident. Robb Stark's vanguard crouched among willow copses where reeds hissed like gossiping maids, their horses blowing white plumes in the chill. Dawn crawled late through low clouds, gray as smithy ash, and with it came the muffled thud of Tywin Lannister's drums, a heart beating somewhere beyond the far bank, slow and inexorable. Robb squinted through drizzle clinging to his lashes and saw fires massed on the southward rise. Neat squares of orange pricks, as if some patient god had pricked the world's skin with molten needles. Beside him, Great John Umber gnawed a heel of bread that might once have been hardtack. 60 banners, I count, maybe 70, he muttered around the crust. Reckon that near 40,000? Closer to 35, said Lord Jason Mallister, eyes narrowed behind rain-slick lashes. Much of what you see are wagons and company cooks. Lannisters like to light twice the fires they need. Robb sat astride Tornado, the courser restless beneath him. Grey Wind lurked at the river's edge, hackles rising, nostrils tasting Lannister scent drifting over water. Robb stroked the direwolf's flank once, calming the animal and himself alike, then drew in a measured breath. Our foot lags 3 leagues behind. Roosa's men will come up by dusk if the ford holds. When they do, we fall back toward the old Hunter's Ridge, draw Tywin across the neck of land, and spring upon his flanks. Great John grinned, showing a chip of tooth lost at Torrens Square. Break him like a salted herring. He is no herring, Robb warned, gaze steady on the distant banners. He is a lion old and patient. See how he camps? He means to force the river tomorrow at dawn, not before. Let him think us fewer than we are. The longer he studies, the more time Asha has to string his tail in knots. Word of the Kraken's raids had reached them the night before. Port granaries torched at Sarsfield, 3 wine barges scuttled on the Mander. A Lannister supply caravan burst open like a rotted fruit, roasted casks of flour rising in black smoke. If Asha had taken prisoners, she had not said, but Robb imagined her laughing as she watched the fires leap skyward. He could almost hear the hiss of green kindling pine, the crack of wagons collapsing. Tywin would not starve yet, not with his baggage so thick. Yet hunger was a weed, whisper fast, sprouting in any slighted belly. Mal Lister nudged his mare closer. "Your Grace, a rider comes." They heard it then. Hooves clattering along the low embankment between copses, water splashing from puddle to puddle. Ser Reynold Westerling emerged from fog, helm under arm, cheeks flushed with the frantic gallop. "My lord," he called, coughing for breath. Lord Karstark's outriders have sighted the Imp's vanguard 2 leagues to the east. Smaller host, banners of Clegane and Crakehall among them, 5,000, maybe more. They skirt the rolling hillocks, aiming to cut us off from the King's Road. Robb's mind flicked through possibilities like pages of a book. Tywin in the west, the Imp in the east. If Lannister cunning held true, the plan was to pinch him between 2 claws, force him north toward the Twins, then crush him on open field. He could yield ground, but each furlong surrendered meant fields stripped, small folk lost, winter stores trampled. He must strike first. "Send word to Bolton," he ordered. "Have him detach the bastard's boys and 1,000 foot to the low meadows yonder. Raise Karstark's standards high. The Imp will think Rickard himself rides to greet him, and slow to ponder." He turned to Greyjoy. "You'll ride with me. We cross here before dusk. Small fording party only. Break a hole in Tywin's flank. Make noise loud enough to startle every lion from his sleep, then melt back across. If we do it right, Tywin will shift west, the Imp stalls east, and our main host can slip between before either claw closes." Great John spat the bread into the grass and grinned. "Blood and noise, there's a tune I know." Mal Lister frowned. "Begin a battle with so few? And if Tywin smells trap, then we dance harder," Robb said. "But he will not. He sees the north as lumbering hammer, no talent for pinpricks. Let him keep that vision until the sting is buried deep." They sent ravens with cut-down messages. No full sentences, only sigils and numbers Lord Bolton would decipher. While the maester scribbled in the cramped traveling desk, Robb allowed himself a moment to gaze upriver. Somewhere north, maybe a league or 2, the Twins loomed with their gloomy towers. He trusted Walder Frey less than he trusted Tywin, yet necessity welded odd chains. Frey garrison would not move. Nothing short of gold or fear would pry the old lord from his towers, and Robb had offered both. Still, he imagined the man peering over battlefields like a fat spider, waiting for the first corpse to twitch before choosing which flank to devour. Twilight draped itself slowly across the marshes. Robb's chosen raiding band gathered. 200 horse, 100 light foot, 70 archers, all sworn to silence where silence suited, to noise where noise demanded. Among them rode Edwin Stark, fresh forged of parchment and king's seal, the legitimized cousin whose shoulders seemed too slight for the dirk at his belt. Robb watched him mount with a tight pang. Once he had dreamt of brothers flanking him in war. Now he must make brothers out of cousins, Sells-word sons, any blood that still carried the chill of winter. They crossed as sun peeled its dying embers behind ragged clouds. The river was waist-deep at the ford, current strong, though not so strong as the Blackwater at high tide. Robb led Tornado first, gray wind swimming like a gray ghost ahead, muzzle barely above swirling mud. Archers went shin-deep, bows raised overhead, whispered curses on slipping stones. When the last man gained the south bank, Robb lifted a gauntlet fist. They fanned through scrub and chalky hillock, using every fold of land for cover. Ahead, lion banners flickered beyond the nearest ridge, dim torches marking sentry posts. Greyjoy's breath puffed like furnace smoke. "Say the word, lad." "Not yet." Archers forward. Men crawled on bellies, quivers muffled with oiled cloth. Beyond the ridge lay a shallow depression full of wagons. No walls, no stakes, too confident by half. Lannister soldiers lounged around cook fires, plumes off their helms, spears racked instead of clutched. Robb counted maybe 1,000 in the near camp, more shadows further west where slope flattened. Perfect. He spread his fingers. 3 arrows loosed in silent tribute, arcing through dusk, striking fletch deep into 3 cauldron lids. The clang was like a smith's hammer on iron, and then the wolves howled. Gray wind sprang forward, a streak of moonlit ash, and all around, men in shaggy snow-pelt cloaks leapt the ridge roaring the north. Archers loosed flights into firelit circles, shafts raining like sudden hail. Cooks screamed. A pot overturned. Grease flamed bright as wildfire. Chaos erupted. Great John thundered in with the cavalry wedge, axes swirling. Robb rode beside him, sword raised, Asha's cutlass belted but unused. There was no time for second blades. He cut a spearman across collar and caught a sergeant in the shoulder where mail links parted. Blood sprayed hot. Tornado reared, hooves lashing a shield man to mud. The camp wallowed in shrieks and clamor. Drums beat wildly, invisible commanders barking. But confusion bred its own mortality. Lines refused to cohere. Robb's band circled through the rout and hacked free again, varicolored cloaks stark in torch glare. They did not linger. Robb blew a war horn call. 2 long, 1 short. Archers ceased, horsemen wheeled. It had been less than 10 minutes, yet 100 fires blazed where pots overturned. They would serve. He pointed north. His men followed, leaving Lannister wounded sprawled among splintered wagons. Behind the ridge they regrouped in 2s and 3s, hearts hammering. Some bore nicks, 1 archer limped, arrowhead in thigh. Moon slid from cloud shroud, illuminating steam rising from wet horses. Great John clapped Robb's mailed shoulder hard enough to jolt teeth. Fine sport. Signal the others, Robb said. Let none tarry. We cross back swift. He scanned the dark slope. Where is Edwin? A thin voice answered, Here, your grace. The legitimized Stark emerged, helm askew, sword dripping. 2 fresh crimson patches spotted his tunic, but he stood straight. I slew a lion with your father's name on my lips, he said, half proud, half shaken. You did well, Robb told him, though sorrow pinched behind his throat. So young. They were all young suddenly. Into the river they plunged again, water colder now. Voices echoed behind. Signals, confusion, horns. Tywin's camp stirring at last. Arrows hissed from shore, few and badly aimed. None found flesh. When Robb reached the far bank, he wheeled Tornado and watched scudding torchlines racing the ridges, specks of alarm flaring one after another, like foxfire where leaf rot lies thick. Tywin would spend the night rearranging lines, sending outriders to probe phantom threats. All as planned. He ordered double watches along their side. Fires low. Sleep came in ragged snatches, torn by the rasp of wet cloaks and the hiss of dying embers. Above, stars wheeled. Somewhere westward the Kraken sailed. Somewhere east, the dwarf lord marched. Below, the twins brooded. The world felt strung on wires thin as spider silk. Morning unfurled pale as burned parchment. Ravens flapped from the north. Roose Bolton's sigil delivering word that the imp indeed held his advance, wary of specters swirling in the meadows. Another bird from Asha, its tiny scroll smeared with salt. Maiden's Pool harried, Lannisport wine fleet scattered, Captain Crakehall's prized galley seized and scuttled. Sea runs red with lion blood, she wrote in sharp strokes. When you have their hides, I will tan them. Robb allowed himself a grim smile, yet his mother's warnings echoed. Asha fought for her own glory as much as for the north. Lions might bleed, but krakens never filled their bellies. They always hungered for more. He broke camp at second light, columns wheeling through dripping grass. Bolton joined, pale-eyed, flanked by sour-faced men with flayed man badges. A bold raid. Bolton observed in a voice neither approving nor critical, merely recording. Our scouts report Tywin shifted 2,000 horse westward at midnight, searching shadows. His outriders skirt our trail at 5 miles, hesitant. Then the hook is set, Robb said. We draw him toward Red Helm's Ford. There we strike. Bolton's mouth twitched. As you command. He rode off without further word. Watching him go, Robb felt chills slide down his back, not from autumn wind. The march took them toward low ridges dotted with half-naked oaks, their leaves mottled rust and gold. Squirrels chattered overhead, indifferent to war. Edwin Stark rode near Grey Wind, whispering to the direwolf as though forging private pacts. Robb caught scraps. Talk of Winterfell kitchens, of dreams where snows piled beyond tower windows. He remembered doing the same at 15, sitting by fire with Bran asleep against his shoulder, speaking secrets to Ghost. A lifetime gone. They made camp that night upon Hunter's Ridge. Below, the river looped east then west, a serpent bending back upon itself. The ground was studded with half-buried stones, ancient cairns marking graves older than the Undul kings. Maester Vyman muttered prayers for still spirits. Captain Smalljohn Umber pissed on one cairn and declared the ghosts welcome for ale. Between jest and superstition, the men settled. Robb ate little. Salt beef gnawed tough, bread damp, while study of war map consumed him. 2 pins marked Tywin's known fires and the imp's crawling host. A third, black-topped, represented Roos's reserve. At map's edge lay a seashell Asha had left in jest upon parting, pale ridges catching lamplight. Robb tapped it with forefinger, thinking of her voice. We are storms that never cease. He wondered if she thought of him, or whether battle joy drowned all softer musings. Rain returned at midnight, a slow patter that built toward steady chant. Storm skins were draped over pavilions. Beasts snorted uneasily. Grey wind prowled, muzzle cast skyward, catching scents lost to human ken. Robb tried to sleep, but dreams came jagged. Asha clad in drowned god robes urging him to sink beneath black waters. Jane Westerling standing upon a cliff, holding a babe that dissolved into sea foam. Tywin's lion mask cracking to reveal Walder Frey's grin. Bran riding a weirwood wolf across crimson snow. He rose before dawn's first smudge. Sentinels reported distant horns. Tywin's host stirring, columns forming. Across the ridge they spotted glints of sunlight on helms, spear points like dew on meadow grass. The lion claw prepared to advance. Robb donned mail, surcoat, direwolf cloak. He strapped Asha's cutlass over hip, asked Vyman for quiet prayer, though he scarcely heard words. One vow alone mattered: hold the north. Lines formed in misted fields, shields locked into hedge. Horns sounded. The dance began. Tywin tested the center with mailed horse, pulled back when Umbers hurled axes to fell first chargers. Archers on both sides traded clouds of arrows. Bronze tips drummed on cedar shields like hail on roof tiles. Screams rose, fell, tangled with desperate neighs. Robb waited, heart thrumming, until Tywin's foot pressed forward. That was the moment. He signaled Mal Lister to will cavalry south around Reedbank and slam into Lion left, while Bolton's foot feigned retreat north, drawing Lion right deeper into swampy ground where each step sucked boot from ankle. Grey wind sprinted along parapet of waiting spears, his howl piercing clamor. Northern morale surged. Clash, steel on steel, mud slashed by hooves. Robb spurred Tornado at head of his guard straight toward a gold banner bearing twin towers, the Lannister vanguard from Golden Tooth. He cut one banner bearer across visor, slashing half his face, felt another lance glance off shoulder plate. Greatjon barreled beside, warhammer denting helms like churned butter dishes. Arrows hissed past, one nicking Robb's bicep. Numb hot pain, but no time. Lines bent, did not break. Tywin's center pushed stubborn. Robb glimpsed the Lord himself beyond ranks, crimson cloak billowing, impassive, measuring. The North must break his patience. He swung Asha's cutlass for first time. Lighter, quick, eager. It slipped beneath a shield rim and sliced tendon. The knight toppled screaming. Amid storm of motion he sensed shift. Bolton's file advanced, not retreating as planned, pressing into Lion right too soon. Mud still deep, why rush? His question drowned beneath roar of horns. Bolton's men surged flank of Karstark line, forcing them inward, narrowing corridor where gray cloaks once feigned flight. Robb felt sudden wrongness. He raised sword to signal withdrawal, but lamp of battlefield communications flickered uncertain. An arrow buzzed his helm. He shouted for riders to bear message, saw Edwin lead them off. Spears collided again. Thunder of hooves overshadowed dread. Meanwhile Lion left buckled under Mallister cavalry. Dust plumes soared. Yet Bolton's premature push left northern center thin. Tywin's elite guards lunged, silver lions snarling on helm crests. Robb spurred to plug gap. Gray wind leapt before him, slammed a pikeman to earth, jaws crushing windpipe. The desperate swirl of bodies tightened like knot. Hours bled. Sun pitched from east to zenith. Carnage piled. Robb's arms ached. Mail heavy with blood. Still Tywin pressed, still north answered. Then, sudden as crack of doom, horns westward. Long deep booms unlike lion or wolf. Robb's heart stuttered. Over far ridge sails appeared. Black sails trimmed gold, snapping like thunderheads. Asha Greyjoy had come upriver. Longships skirted shallows of the Green Fork. Warriors leaping ashore screaming salt seemed chance. Axes gleaming. Surprise cleaved the field. Lannister flank gaped as raiders slammed into supply wagons already charred from previous night. Fire spurted anew. Horses panicked. Tywin's right faltered. Robb seized the window. He rose in stirrups, voice hoarse from shouting, "Forward!" Umbers, Glovers, Hornwoods roared. Line searched, steel bit deeper. Asha led her own charge astride a rangy river horse, kraken helm wet with spray. She found Robb in whirl of steel, grinned fierce. "Did I miss the feast? Only the first course?" He called back, sweat streaking grime. Together they carved path. She with curved axe now, he with sword and cutlass paired. Battle lines blurred. Bodies toppled like grain in storm. Tywin's bannermen rallied thrice and broke thrice. At last golden banners dipped. Horns signaled retreat. Afternoon sun found the field strewn with torn standards. Broken spears jutting from mud like snapped ribs. Ravens circled overhead, croaking prophecy of feasts. Robb stood amid ruin, chest heaving, gaze sweeping for threat yet unseen. Bolton rode up, immaculate save specks of blood on cheek. "Victory is ours." Robb eyed him, suspicion flickering. "Your men pressed early." Bolton's pale eyes unreadable. "Fog of war." My flank thought signal changed. Robb wanted to press, but exhaustion weighed heavier than distrust. Mallister approached, cheering, clutching dented helm. Great John waved Tywin's discarded war banner like trophy. Asha dismounted, wiping axe on cloak, still smiling though darkened by some silent calculus. Field surgeons tended wounded. Edwin Stark lay upon litter, arrow inside, but alive. Robb knelt, pressed hand to cousin's brow. "You fought bravely." Edwin's lips twitched a wan grin. "Did we win?" "We did." Night fell hazy with smoke of burning wagons. Torches ringed provisional encampment where Tywin had fled south. Losses fearful but not fatal. Robb's men sang broken victory songs. Many wept from pain or memory of brothers lost. In command tent Robb met Asha across heavy wine-stained table. She leaned forward, eyes bright. "Tell me true, Wolf King. Had I not come, would you stand?" "I would stand," he answered. "But perhaps not here." She laughed soft. "A dance worth a longship crushed." She poured ale into horn, handed him. He drank, thick taste of honey and salt. When he lowered vessel, she watched him with tilt of head. "I have need of new timber. Captured lion wagons hold oak fit for masts. Take what you will." "And what of captives?" "I seized Lord Crakehall's heir." She flicked grease off knuckle. "Shall I gift you a lion for wedding feast?" "Spare him," Robb said, though part of him yearned for Lannister blood as meat for wolves. "Ransom buys more grain than corpses do." Asha studied him, then shrugged. "Coin is coin." She raised her horn. "To victory's cost." He raised his, though he tasted only the iron tang of parted flesh. Catelyn arrived next day, escorted by Ser Brynden and a train of medics. She embraced Robb fiercely, then moved among wounded, whispering prayers. When she met Asha, their greeting was cool but civil. Catelyn's eyes lingered on the Kraken helm. Perhaps she wondered what face her son kissed beneath. Reports filtered. Tywin's host limped toward Harrenhal to lick wounds. The imp redirected east, uncertain. Walder Frey sent Raven praising swift triumph and requesting confirmation of Lannister casualties for the archives of House Frey. Robb crumpled the note. 2 days' respite allowed burial mounds raised beneath Hunter's Ridge. Robb stood with head bowed while Septon chanted 7-point prayer beside a weirwood stake hammered into earth for northern dead. Asha looked on from ridge, silent, perhaps puzzled by such ceremony. She believed dead belonged to sea always. After rites, Robb found her beside cairn of stones she built for fallen Ironborn. "We bury ours too," she said, answering unspoken thought. "Stones are not water, but each bears weight." He nodded, grateful beyond words. Scouts rode in. Tywin holed in Harrenhal, sending ravens to King's Landing for fresh levies. Lion supply lines shredded. Small folk along Gold Road rising in revolt, spurred by whispers of northern victories and Ironborn harrying. Across the Reach, rumors claimed Renly's shade-walked fields, bannered by Baratheon stag reborn. "Va bret gosts." Now talk turned to wedding. Catelyn argued delay, but Robb countered that victory's tide must carry vows, else suspicion fester. Ravens flew once more, inviting lords loyal to North and Riverlands, demanding safe passage for those beholden to drowned god. The ceremony would hold at Riverrun on first frost night. 6 weeks shrank to 3. The march northward began slow, hindered by wounded carts and salvage wagons. Gray wind ranged ahead, ears twitching. At river crossings they found bridges burned by retreating Lannisters. Ironborn carpenters felled poplars to lash makeshift pontoons. When carpenters argued with Umbers, Asha intervened, mapping the lashings herself, splicing rope quick as weaving hair. She cursed when knots slipped, laughed when they held, and by dusk a rickety span bore first horse across. Shared toil fostered grudging camaraderie. Ahar sailors traded cod jerky for black beer. Northmen taught Ironborn how to snare hare in brush. But tensions surfaced. One night a Glover man caught Kraken thief picking through corpse rings, and knives flashed. Robb had both whipped, equal lash, equal shame. He spoke to captains after, "This union holds by choice, not fear. Let men remember." Asha nodded approval publicly, yet later she asked if fear were truly absent from any alliance. He answered only with silence. At camps, singers told of the river burn, where Kraken sails saved the young wolf. Bards embellished as bards will. Asha slaying 10 knights with one sweep, Robb riding gray wind into enemy ranks. Truth kinked into legend even before wounds scabbed. One evening Edwin limped to Robb's tent. "Lord, the Queen of Salt requests your presence on the Watch Hill." Robb followed the lad through whispering grass. On hilltop Asha stood with cloak flapping, moon a broken coin above her. She gestured at horizon. "See lights yonder?" Pinpricks flickered far east where wooded ridge met river. "Outriders?" he asked. "Could be carts, pilgrims," she said. "Could be Sellswords. My scouts spied banners I could not name. Green flame on black." She drew breath fogging cool air. "Wildfire men, maybe. I think your lion cub Joffrey tastes fear and calls Sellswords from Essos. Gold buys many blades. Gold buys many traitors." She turned to him, hair whipping. "We must strike before they gather." "We scarcely healed," he countered. "I cannot drag half-sewn wounds into new furnace." Her mouth twisted, half snarl, half smile. "Salt heals fastest in water." She stepped closer. "Your victory must not pause. Momentum is tied. Lose it and you flounder." Robb felt her nearness like static. "What would you have me do?" "Let me," she said, pressing fingertip to his chest. "Raid the Blackwater itself. While they clutch Sellsword purses, my longships slip upriver. Torch barges under the red keep walls. They will soil silken breeches." He caught her wrist gently. "Sail up the most guarded river of Westeros? Past Dragonstone galleys and chain booms." "Chains break," she said. Or we sail at night, low-decked, painted pitch. Kraken moved silent. Her eyes glittered with dare. Give me 10 ships, small ones. I need not conquer. I need but strike bolt of dread. Kings quail when hearths burn. Robb considered. If it worked, King's Landing would reel. But if she fell, Tywin would claim his bride. Kraken flayed, wolf shamed. The risk weighed like hot iron. Yet war favored bolder gambler. Take 8, he said finally. Choose your cruise. Return before frost brings ice to the Blackwater. He lifted her hand to oath clasp. And return, wife. She gripped his fingers hard. I return, or I die on river mud. Her smile flashed. Wolves swim better than lions, yes? When she left, Robb felt cold rush in where her heat had been. The host split next dawn. Main body lumbering toward Riverrun under Catelyn's oversight, wounded trundling in oak carts. Robb with 3,000 road escort north of Tumblestone, screening. Asha and her chosen raiders slipped downstream, oars muffled in sealskin, sails furled until night. Seen from Robb's vantage at morning's crest, the longships resembled black beetles drifting between reeds. He wished them speed, though fear gnawed his marrow. Days blurred into blend of march, camp, march. Frost crisped grass, breath plumed white. Edwin improved enough to ride without grimace. Umbers boasted they'd roast wedding feast from lion calves. Mal Lister compiled casualty rolls with meticulous gloom. Each name read felt like chisel on Robb's ribs. Yet reports gladdened too. Deepwood Mott reclaimed by Galbart's kin. Manderley fleet escorting grain from Sister Tun. Bear Island women repelling wildling raiders emboldened by war's distraction. Walder Frye dispatched another letter. His niece Roslyn soon wed to Edwin as promised. Dowry to include 20 spearmen for guard. Catelyn raised brow. Walder seldom parted with men so freely. But gift accepted. Riverrun's towers finally rose from river mist, their stone catching pale sun. The fortress looked smaller than Robb remembered, though perhaps memory had grown him rather than shrink walls. Gate banners showed direwolf entwined with trout. Below, workers hammered dais and courtyard, staked poles for festive awnings. Asha's chair remained empty at high table. Catelyn clasped Robb's hand as they passed portcullis. Her eyes glimmered pride, fear, love braided. 3 nights remained before first frost. Still no raven from Asha. On second night, gale lashed battlements. Robb paced ramparts, cloak snapping. Gray wind prowled, uneasy. In lantern glow Robb read and reread last letter from Asha, edges worn. I will carve a kingdom from these waves, and you will hold the land or drown. He tasted threat and vow twinned. The gale broke dawn of wedding eve. Along eastern sky a streak of scarlet heralded sun. Raven croak split air. A black bird swooped to landing perch, scroll-tied. Robb's pulse hammered as he untied knot. The message scant lines. Flames kissed the red keep, chain shattered, returning with prize. Signed, your storm. Relief struck him so fiercely knees near buckled. He let out breath, laughter half sob. Gray wind barked once, joyous echo. Robb whispered thanks to old gods, new gods, drowned gods alike. That afternoon horns sounded, fleet on horizon. People gathered on walls. Ironborn ships rode up Tumblestone, battered but afloat, masts scorched, sail edges charred. On black wind's prow stood Asha, hair ragged, one arm bound in blood-stiff linen. Behind her high mast dangled an immense ring of blackened iron. King's Landing's harbor chain, severed at some point by Kraken cunning, now trophy. Crowds roared. Even Catelyn gasped, admiration wrestling disquiet. Asha raised uninjured arm in salute. Her warriors beat shields with axes until sound drowned river thunder. Robb descended pier steps 2 at a time. When Asha strode gangplank, he met her with clasped forearm. Up close he saw singed hair, smoke-black smudges streaked tears of sweat upon cheeks. Yet her grin glowed. You stole their chain, he said. One link at a time, she laughed. Cut at anchor, rode out under fog. Wildfire lit half their docks. Green flames pretty as sea nymph breasts. She produced a small chest, cedar charred round edges. Inside lay golden cups, Lannister sigils melted half. Wedding gift, he laughed, high and clear, startling himself. Preparations whirled. Tents draped in direwolf gray interlaced with kraken black. Cooks spitted boar and river trout. Minstrels tuned. Maester Vyman rehearsed vows bridging old gods and drowned. Wine casks rolled. Beyond stone walls, wounded groaned and Lannister prisoners shivered. But within, hall thrummed. Night again. Robb and Asha stood on balcony of Lord Hoster's solar overlooking rushing Tumbleweir. Moonlight silvered river into sword blade. Torches below cast their bodies in amber halo. Tomorrow, Robb murmured. Tomorrow, she echoed. He brushed knuckles over her bandaged arm. You should rest. Pain keeps me reminded I live. Her eyes softened, rare glimpse of vulnerability. Alon may think me foolish to wed foreign king. And you? He asked. I am never foolish. She stepped closer. I am curious. For what? How wolf tastes of salt. She leaned and kissed him, lips rough, tasting of smoke and sea. He returned kiss, hesitance falling away like broken links of chain. They parted. She smiled small. Do not drown, she warned and slipped inside. Robb stayed, listening to river rush. He thought of fathers and vows, of broken promises and new ones. Dawn would bring union fraught with shadows yet bright with promise. Winter closed her fist, but inside spark glowed. Below, gray wind lifted snout to moon and howled. Long, low, less lonely than before. Across courtyard, a captive lion cub cried in cage. Kraken drummers answered with slow boom. Wind carried scents of pine tar, roasting meat, damp stone, and the briny ghost of wildfire still clinging to Asha's cloak. Robb Stark closed his eyes and breathed deep, letting all converge. Smoke and salt, iron and snow, blood and hope. Tomorrow vows would braid sea to land. Tonight, between heartbeat and breath, he felt tide of fate pause, gathering strength for surge that would shape all shores to come. The first frost whispered across Riverrun's battlements like a silent herald, laying a thin veil of white upon Merlin's and fish-haunted banners. Torches guttered, their flames coughing in the keen pre-dawn chill, but within the great hall pulsed a different fire. The hush of expectation, of vows waiting to be forged, of kingdoms poised upon the edge of a single breath. Maester Vyman moved through the aisle of benches with measured pace, copper plates upon his chain gleaming. He carried 2 flasks, one of rain-collected ice water from the Godswood pool, one of seawater shipped in a tight-sealed jar from the Iron Islands. Old gods and drowned god, sky and sea, north and west, all would taste the union bound this dawn. Robb Stark stood before the hearth in wolf-gray doublet trimmed with humble weirwood beads. Over his shoulders lay a mantle of snowy direwolf fur that shimmered silver in lantern light. Across from him loomed Great John Umber, fastening the steel clasp, a wolf's head gripping a kraken tentacle in its jaws. The older man's thick fingers fumbled only once, and when he stepped back, pride blazed in his one good eye. You look a king folk will follow into 7 hells, he rumbled. And back again, I hope, Robb replied, rubbing numb hands together. Nerves pricked him like nettles. Not fear, but the heaviness of mingled fates. Somewhere behind braided beams, his mother spoke in low tones to her brother Brynden. Robb dared not listen too closely for sorrow in her voice. He chose instead to focus on the crackling logs, on the hiss of sap, on the deep breaths gray wind took at his feet. Outside, hooves clacked on cobbles. An arrival heralded by distant war horns croon. A hush rippled. The iron-bound doors groaned open, and Asha Greyjoy strode in. She wore no gown of silk nor coronet of gems. Instead, a sleeveless byrnie of dark mail draped to mid-thigh, burnished black by oil and set with cunningly worked links that glinted green where wildfire sparks had kissed. A kraken of hammered gold clasped a half-cape of pale sealskin across her shoulders. At her waist rode a freshly honed dirk, but the curved war axe, polished and piece-bound by riveted leather strap, served as her emblem. Her hair lay braided with tiny shards of driftglass, each catching torchlight like bits of midnight star. Some river lords shifted, lips pursed at such militant attire, but Asha's gaze dared any to object. She walked the wide aisle with long strides, boots echoing, while behind her advanced 4 ironborn captains bearing aloft the severed harbor chain link, now scoured clean and set upon an oaken frame. It clanked like thunder when they halted before the dais. Robb met her halfway, their eyes held, storm gray meeting frosted steel. Asha inclined her head not in obeisance but in iron respect. Robb gave equal nod. They extended palms, and Maester Vyman poured first the river water across their clasped fingers, cold enough to wring a gasp from Asha's lungs. Then the sea water followed, salty rivulets weaving down to drip upon stone. Salt for strength, Vyman intoned. Water for life. Love for peace. He stepped back. The blackfish produced 2 lengths of fresh-cut pine, bark stripped to reveal pale heartwood. He laid them end to end, forming a single beam between bride and groom. "Step together," he murmured. Robb and Asha stepped, each foot touch synchronous. When soles met wood, the beam flexed but held, a bridge of living tree. Caitlin came forth, bearing cloth woven of gray wool shot with black threads knotted into wave patterns. Newly made by Riverrun seamstresses, it would form the braided cloak of House Stark and House Greyjoy alike. Wordlessly, she draped it over their joined shoulders, fastening second clasp, direwolf and kraken cheek to cheek. Robb felt the weight settle. He sensed Asha stiffen at being cloaked, then relax. She turned her head just enough that her breath stirred his ear. "Now you carry half my storms," she whispered. "And you half my snows," he answered. Silence bristled. Vyman lifted both arms. "Old God's witness, drowned God witness, let 2 be 1. Blood and salt, steel and snow, all here stand witness." The Bolton contingent applauded with polite taps of gloved hands. Hornwoods cheered. Riverlords bowed heads. From the Ironborn came a rhythmic stamping of spear butts, and in the rafters ravens croaked, restless. Robb drew Asha's hand upward and kissed the calloused knuckles. Asha returned the gesture, pressing her lips to the back of his wrist where pulse beat. Warmth flared. Cheers swelled. Festivities erupted like pent spring torrents. Harpers struck chords. Manderly singers launched into ancient shanty laced with northern dirge undertone. Trenchers heavy with hot trout and boar circulated. Wine flowed. Dark arbor red for riverlords, spiced ale for Northmen, black ale for Ironborn. Robb and Asha took the high seats beneath intertwined banners. Direwolf rampant devouring kraken, kraken wrapping coils round wolf's haunch. Symbolism looked vicious yet blended. Caitlin studied them, lips tight. Brynden murmured reassurance. Lord Jason Mallister toasted the Union. Roose Bolton raised goblet in silent salute, pale eyes shimmering. Great John demanded a wrestling bout to honor bride's famed strength. Asha obliged, rolling shirt sleeves to reveal muscular arms, scars crossing sun-bronzed skin. Her opponent, Drennan Smallwood, a tall Karstark man built like pine trunk. They grappled on rushes before dais, roars filling hall. Asha slipped her weight cunningly, pivoted. In 2 heartbeats, Smallwood lay pinned, disbelief smeared across bearded jaw. Laughter thundered. She rose, extended hand. He shook with grin. Robb watched, proud and wary. The hall's mood soared, but alliances could shift on a spilled cup. His gaze strayed to Bolton's corner often. The bastard of Bolton, an unsmiling man named Ramsay, nursed ale with eyes fixed upon Asha's calves. Unease slicked Robb's spine. Gray wind stalked peripheral shadows, allowed within only for ceremony, ears swiveling. Hours rolled. Mead blended with musics. Dancers swirled beneath candelabras as if chasing fireflies. Robb and Asha danced once. A Northman reel retimed to Iron Island's drumbeats. He stumbled on syncopation. She steadied with grin. When tune lapsed, they parted breathless. Later, as candles guttered low, Asha tugged his sleeve. "Enough pageant. Walk with me." She led into courtyard frostlit, where last scraps of moon floated like shattered pearls atop the dark moat. Mist rose from water. Guard torches sputtered. She leaned on parapet. Tell me true, wolf. Did you fear I would not return? I feared many things, he admitted. That you'd die, that you'd succeed yet find reason to sail another course, that Tywin would ride upon Riverrun before our vows. Yet you allowed. She flicked frost off stone. Trust is a gamble Yes. He stepped beside her. One I must keep making. Asha drew a small pouch from belt, opened. 3 river pebbles, each etched by crude tool. She placed them in his palm. Symbols. A wolf's head, a kraken, a spiral. The first stands for us, she said. The second for me. The third for storm to come. Storm. Balon plots always, and Euron may return. Her eyes hardened. He roams the world seeking dragon horns and dread fire. If he sails into this war, the tides will break mountains. Would he betray you? Euron betrays all. Keep the spiral close. She closed his fingers. When you feel its edges, remember the sea shifts without warning. Robb pocketed the pebbles. I would rather know when storms gather. You'll know. A kraken bride will smell the pressure falling. She touched his cheek. Come. The bed beckons. Their marriage bed was not within Lord Solar, but a new chamber hastily furnished in Riverrun's east tower. Neutral ground where trout and wolf, kraken and trout had little claim. Rushlights perfumed with cedar glimmered. Wolf pelts layered mattress. Sealskin spread across footboard. Robb shed doublet standing in linen shirt. Asha unbuckled mail. It clattered upon chest at bedside. Underneath she wore a simple shift of coarse gray cloth. She shrugged it off with no coyness, scars mapping ribs, faint burn brand above left hip. The sigil of House Greyjoy, once pressed during childhood test of salt and iron. Robb traced it softly. She caught his wrist, pressed lips to inside of forearm. Need blossomed. They came together with hunger born of war's uncertainty. Fierce kisses tasting copper from cracked lip, hands rough but gentle. When they joined, breath mingled in clouds that shimmered about them like ghosts. Outside, wind keened through arrow slits. Inside, heat rose. Afterwards, they lay tangled. Asha rested head on his shoulder, fingers drawing direwolf shapes on chest. You smell of pine, she mused. Northman's cologne. Better than tar. Her laugh rumbled low. Silence settled. She spoke again in murmur. I mean to bear a child, Wolf King. Robb's heart thumped. So soon. Winter seeds sprout hardest come spring. A prince of salt and snow would bind folk tighter than any scroll. She turned face, eyes unreadable. Do you fear? No, he said, and found truth in answer. But let the child come when they will. Asha exhaled, perhaps acceptance. Sleep crept. Dawn after wedding found Riverrun busy again with war's necessities. Scouts hurried in with tidings. The imp sells words. Second sons from Tyrosh skirted riverlands, sacking hamlets, but refusing pitched battle. Tywin's host had split. A division of 10,000 marched east along Blackwater Rush. Another remained at Harrenhal. Siege engines rumored forging. Meanwhile, Balon Greyjoy massed 50 longships near Seaguard, ostensibly to support his daughter, but Jason Mallister feared Seaguard's long-rebuilt tower might suffer once more. Robb summoned council. Lords clustered beneath tattered map. Asha attended, mail redonned. Discussion swirled. Holding the trident, intercepting Sel's words, parleying with Mallister for Seaguard defense. Roose Bolton advised caution. Send fast riders to watch Imp, fortify twins, wait winter to freeze river crossings, then strike Lannisters when their oxen starved. Asha scoffed. Let rivers thaw in lion blood. Great John urged immediate march to Harrenhal. Robb weighed. Patience warred with urgency. Supplies slim, though Ironborn captured stores. His wounded still recovering. Yet Lannisters regrouping each dawn. Finally he spoke. We divide yet again. Lord Roose, hold Riverrun with 3,000, treat with Mallister. If Balon threatens Seaguard, we remind him who is father of the bride. Great John and Galbart ride north to cleanse the King's Road of Sel's words. Hinder the imp Asha and I lead swift strike at Harrenhal. Harass siege forges, free Riverlanders caged. We move light, fight quick. Bolton bowed. As you command. Asha grinned, but Catelyn frowned. You risk too much, she whispered aside to Robb later. Harrenhal is cursed. All Westeros is cursed, he replied. But Harrenhal sits at heart of lion web. Cut those threads, and Joffrey's throne trembles. Then take more men. I need speed. Catelyn pressed parchment into his hand. A copy of old map of Harrenhal's passages she acquired long ago. Read this. Stone remembers secrets. He kissed her brow. I will return. That eve Robb and Asha prepared. She selected 6 longships to follow river route south, ferrying supplies to a hidden landing near God's Eye. He gathered 2,000 horse and 500 archers. Grey Wind sensed journey, pacing restless. Edwin begged accompany, wound nearly knit. Robb consented, provided he ride rearguard. Before dawn they set out, mist swirling low. Riverrun's towers faded behind like memory of childhood. Path wound through moss-draped alder groves. Their advance swift, fords known only to Riverlanders guided. At midday third they approached Lake God's Eye, its placid mirror reflecting thunderheads. Harrenhal's black towers jutted beyond, monstrous claws clutching sky. Fires guttered within broken windows, forges alive. Robb split force, archers hidden in fishing village ruins, cavalry circling marshy flank to cut off westerly roads. Ironborn skiffs snaked reeds delivering grappling hooks and tar-filled casks. Night fell thick and starless. Wind carried bitter metallic tang of smelters. At second watch Robb clasped Asha beneath willow screen. Signal at moonrise, he said. She nodded, slipped away soundless. Grey Wind nuzzled Robb's gauntlet. He laid hand on shaggy head. Soon, he murmured. Moon-edged horizon, a sliver of blood orange behind clouds. Robb's breath steamed. Then, far side of castle, a bloom of emerald fire erupted, sizzling roar splitting stillness. Wildfire stolen by Asha hurled into forge yard. A second jar burst, casting plume of green that towered higher than Heron's tallest broken keep. Screams echoed. Horns blared confusion. Now, Robb shouted. His cavalry surged, hoofs pounding marsh track, leaping cattail bogs. They poured through posterns seldom used, gates unbarred by inside conspirators. Local smiths enslaved by Lannisters now freed by stealth Eddard men. Grey Wind bounded ahead, eyes blazing. Within, chaos. Molten iron spilled, licking cobblestones. Smiths fled. Lannister guards scrambled half-armored. Archers from river ruins loosed at ramparts, felling crossbowmen. Robb's horsemen cut through courtyard, slashing cords hoisting siege engineers' frames. Whole trebuchet arm toppled onto wagon of pitch, igniting. Robb dismounted near Tower of Dread, leading small wedge of veterans to free hundreds of captive smallfolk penned for labor. Bolts hissed. One grazed his helm. He parried halberd, thrust Asha's cutlass through man's thigh, leaving him howling. Gatehouse above erupted in flame as Ironborn tossed pitch casks. Asha herself emerged atop rampart section, silhouette against green glare, waving banner of wolf kraken. Harrenhal's stones seemed to scream with each explosion, curses of dead kings echoing. But Robb pressed forward, carving path to central yard where Forgemaster Ser Bonifer the Good had taken command. They clashed, Bonifer in half-plate, great sword swirling arcs. Robb nimble, ducking, letting Bonifer's reach tire his arms. Grey Wind lunged, seizing sword arm just as Robb caught opening. His long sword kissed gap at gorget. Ser Bonifer fell silent. Victory was swift but messy. By first light, forge fires gone cold, trebuchets reduced to charred wrecks. Robb's men scoured for lion banners. Many burnt, others trampled. Captives freed, stores claimed. He ordered stable fodder loaded, smith tools taken north. Harrenhal's empty shell offered little comfort. They would not garrison a curse. They would plunder and ride. Asha limped from rampart steps, trousers soaked to knee. Chain link in pocket, she said, laughing hoarse. Another trophy? He clasped her arm. We must quit before Tywin's scouts circle back. They torched remaining siege timbers, left towers wreathed in smoke. At noon, columns rode north up the causeway, gray wind loping guard. Ironborn longships kept pace along Lake's northern marsh channels, ready to slip east into Blackwater if need. But misfortune brewed. 2 days into retreat, Edwin's outriders returned with grim news. Ramsay Bolton's men vacated Riverrun 8 days after Robb's departure, riding west with unknown purpose. Walder Frye mustered banners, citing need to protect twins from lion raids, both actions without leave. Worse, Ravens to White Harbor reported an envoy from King's Landing bearing royal pardon had landed, seeking audience with Lord Wyman. Catelyn's letters grew terse. Robb camped near Ivy Inn to decide course. In command tent he paced while Asha sharpened axe, sparks flying like orange insects. "How will you answer treachery?" she asked. "Walder is cautious, not yet traitor. Might posture for more concessions." He frowned. "But Bolton, I misliked his eyes." "Flayman seldom loyal," Asha said. "Cut before rot spreads. March west, curtail him. My army tired. Fear wets feet." She stood axe balanced. "Let me sail to Seaguard, rally Mallister, threaten Bolton flank from sea." Robb considered. Seaguard under Mallister watchful. Bolton moves inland. If he rides for Freys, 2 claws join. He rubbed temples. "We must outpace." He ordered immediate march northwest, minimal baggage. Edwin assumed command of rearguard again, his youth tempered now by scar. The company rode along Red Fork's upper reaches, through villages half abandoned for winter. Farmers waved, offering turnips. Robb left silver. Each league he studied skies for ravens, none came. On 6th day frost deepened, puddles rimmed ice. They crossed Hag's Mire causeways at dusk, reeds rattling like bones. There met a lone rider, Maester Vyman's apprentice, face pinched with cold. He bore scroll. Riverrun secure, Roose Bolton absent, Catelyn uneasy. Also, disturbing whispers. Euron Greyjoy sighted at Pike, returning with black sails and wizards from Old Valyria. Asha cursed, pacing. "My uncle smells blood. He will want crown. Will Balon yield?" "Balon denies storms until they swallow him." She clenched fist. "If Euron horns dragons, war becomes fire." Robb glimpsed shadow of burnt Winterfell in her words. He clasped her shoulders. "We finish Lion first, then weather storms of sea." The road-crested ridge giving view of twins far off, 2 towers austere beneath sunrise hue. Banner of House Frye still flew, but dark shapes milled beyond East Bank. Host massing. Spyglass revealed flayed-man standards among firs. Bolton and Frye allied. Great John snarled. "We take them now, bridge or no." But numbers heavy. Robb's host depleted. Siege of twins impossible. Robb convened captains among frostbitten barley stubble. "We cannot storm bridge, nor retreat." Tywin regroups south. "We must cross elsewhere." Galbart Glover suggested the shallow fords near Oldstone's ruins, but river high with melt. Asha proposed building longships on spot, but time lacked. Then Edwin spoke. "There is secret path. All eyes." "I studied old legends," he said, voice shaky yet firm. "Before bridge, ferrymen guided hidden shoal half-league upriver. My squire Aemon scouted. Stones still there, under low tide." Robb weighed chance. Freys patrolled? Unknown, but risk of waiting greater. Night cloaked valley in silver gloom. Scouts crept. Shoal indeed rose, water waist deep at ebb near dawn. Plan set. Robb ordered silence, torches doused. Cloaks wrapped hooves. At moon's nadir, archers slipped across first, wading icy current. Cold bit bone but current gentle. They formed perimeter among reeds on west bank. Then cavalry crossed single file, horses snorting, but mules kept stable by whispered lullabies of stable boys. Gray wind swam, for slick, silent save low growl at unseen fish. Across they climbed bank of scrub, hearts drumming. Whole host crossed before first blush of sun. Frye watchfires burned south, oblivious. Robb allowed small smile. Asha squeezed his hand, ghosting past rats who guard grain. But dawn revealed column of Bolton cavalry riding north on King's Road, only half-day's march west. Caught ahead of them. Choice: evade into foothills or engage. Robb would not let traitors join new mischief. He split forces. Greyjoy with half-horse flanked, archers entrenched behind low stone walls along Sunken Lane. Robb led charge from front with Edwin at side. Battle of Ashfield Lane began in mist. Bolton men wearing pink cloaks advanced, thinking to overrun small escort, only to meet arrow storm cutting ranks. Ramsay Bolton, in black armor filigreed red, rallied cruelly. He drove prisoners on foot before cavalry as meat shield. Robb raged, ordered Grey Wind loose. Dire Wolf bounded down slope, leaping upon prisoner line, yet disabled shackles parted and ran. Chaos spread. Bolton riders hesitated. Greyjoy's flank crashed into side, axes shattering formation. Ramsay fought savage, flaying knife drawn, but Robb met him edge to edge. Cutlass clanged against cruel hook, sparks showered. Ramsay grinned madly, until Asha appeared on other side, axe hooking his bridle. Horse reared, he toppled, Robb's pommel struck temple. Bastard fell unconscious. His guard broke, many fleeing. When rout ended, 200 Bolton men dead or captured. Ramsay bound in irons, stripped of rings of human skin he had sewn on belt. Edwin vomited at sight. Greyjoy wiped gore from beard. The flayers pup done. Robb ordered Ramsay confined under triple guard. His mind raced. Proof of Bolton treachery. Letters perhaps on captured squire? Search found sealed missive from Walder Fry. Invitation to Dreadfort for strategy supper. Confirmation. Evening. Robb sat by small campfire, encryption scroll before him. Asha sat across, stitching shallow axe wound on thigh. Execute him, she said, jerking needle. Justice must be served, he replied. Killing is justice, but proof must be shown. Lords will doubt if rumor only. You hold bastards' letters. Some will claim forgeries. They must see trial. She scoffed, tying knot. Wolves chew too slowly. He sighed. Maybe, but law binds realm. He reached to pour mulled cider. She accepted. Stars glittered above coldly. They marched next day toward Bar Rowlands, bypassing Dreadfort for now, too fortified. Ravens flew ahead, carrying copies of Bolton correspondence to White Harbor and Bear Island. Robb hoped to rally houses against Flair should he seize Riverrun. 2 nights later, camp near Wickerwood. Snowflakes drifted. First heavy fall of winter. Fires crackled as men built snow walls windward. Robb oversaw prisoner tent. Ramsay sat shackled, eyes fever bright. Why? Robb asked quietly. Ramsay smiled thin. Why not? Kings fall to knives better than swords. I would carve realm for myself. He leaned forward. But there are deeper games. The phrase, they crave vengeance. He licked cracked lips. Your mother, she will pay. Robb's fist clenched. Speak plain. Walder sends for king's blood. A wedding feast soon, your uncle Edmure weds Roslyn. Trap. He chuckled. I meant attend, but you ruined ride. Shackles rattled. Robb's stomach churned. Edmure, at twins currently for nuptials decreed earlier by treaty. Caitlin may be traveling. Walder's plan timed with Bolton betrayal. Rage flared. He exited tent, Asha waiting. Well? He warns of Fry ambush. Her face hardened. Trust flayed man's tongue? No. But risk grave. We must race south. Asha shook head. Horses bone tired. River rising with snow melt. But maybe longships. Her brow furrowed. I can send 2 by canal to slip down Red Fork overnight. Bear message faster. Do it. She strode to commanders. Robb gathered leaders. Night thick. He spoke of fear. Fry treachery. Edmure in danger. Greyjoy roared fury. Plan set. Light riders would escort Robb and 100 picked men south. Rest hosts to follow. Asha's boats to carry letters. Grey wind sensed tension, pacing. Before dawn, they set. leaving fresh snow crushed under hoof. Frost air knifed lungs. Robb rode like wind-whipping banners. He thought of Edmure's laugh, of Roslin's timid eyes, of the smoky hall where river and wolf banners once mingled. He prayed gods old and new. At midday third, they encountered Fry outriders near Fairmarket. Deception crude. Riders claimed escort to twins. Robb feigned ignorance, following. After mile he signaled. Ambushers foiled, arrow flight felled half, others fled. Pressing on, they reached ferry crossing now iced edges. Bargemen cowed into service rowed them across. Robb's cloak froze stiff, yet heart burned. Dusk, they neared Whispering Wood where once his cunning captured Kingslayer. Memory of first victory spurred him, but scouts reported Fry parties combing glades. They detoured along ridge, torches doused. Snow thickened, swirling curtains that muffled world. Paths vanished, horses stumbled, yet the young wolf pressed. Third night they glimpsed towers of twins dim through flurries. Fires glittered along battlements, horns echoing faint.
Wedding fast ongoing.
Robb's 100 dismounted in copse, leaving horses. They advanced on foot along frozen irrigation ditches, gray wind scouting ahead. Avalanchely reached gated postern seldom used, shadow-tide lapping moat edges. Edwin scaled first, rope secured. One by one they climbed, slipping between arrow loops into corridor deserted. Within, music drifted. Lively pipes, men's laughter. Smell of roast goose. Robb's pulse hammered. They crept along wall walk to gallery above main hall. Through slitted shutters he peered, hundreds of Freys feasting. At center dais Edmure Tully sat, cheeks flushed, bride Roslin weeping softly. Walder Fry beside, eyes sly. Pink-cloaked men dotted benches, Bolto. And soldiers. Musicians played, the queen took off her sandal. Robb scanned. His mother there, near Edmure, expression strained. Brynden absent, maybe guarding. But at hall edges he saw crossbowmen disguised as minstrels. Trap. He whispered to Asha, who crouched nearby, axe drawn. Greyjoy's teeth bared. Archers first, Robb breathed. He knocked arrow, loosed into rafter lantern. It smashed, flames spilling onto minstrel. Chaos burst. Robb's men fired volley through murder holes, felling crossbowmen before they could aim. Gray wind crashed through side doors into hall below, snarling. Screams erupted. Robb kicked door, stormed walkway. Below, Fry soldiers scrambled, many drunk. He vaulted railing, landing atop trestle, scattering cups. Sword flashed. Asha leapt after, axe cleaving. Walder Fry shrieked, pulled Roslin to shield. Caitlin rose, shock turning to fierce relief. Edmure grabbed carving knife, stabbing Bolton guard. Great John barreled through mid-aisle, overturning tables. Bolton men rallied quick. There were scores. Melee spread through hall. Fry ladies fled. Musicians shrieked. Walder attempted retreat toward dais arch, but Edmure and Caitlin blocked path. Robb cut through two guards, reached dais stairs. Ramsay's lieutenant advanced, but Asha axed him. Arrows flew. One grazed Robb's neck. He ignored sting, mounted dais. Walder brandished ornate dagger pitifully. Roslin collapsed sobbing. Enough, Robb thundered. Silence wavered, then rippled as his men gained advantage. Gray wind stood with jaws clamped around a Bolton man's thigh. The man whimpered. Walder trembled. Guessed right. You break guessed right invading my hall. Guessed right you broke preparing crossbows. Robb spat. Your treachery ends now. He signaled. Edwin ushered captured crossbowmen to dais, forcing them kneel. Great John hauled forward teenage Fry mustering nerve. Robb addressed Hall. Those not party to plot lay down arms. Mercy given. Many Freys dropped blades. Bolton survivors resisted. Archers on gallery fired from behind. Robb's men responded, arrows thudding. Asha stalked to Walder, blade tip under chin. You saved your skin last rebellion by hiding behind gate, she said. But Kraken drag old men to deep if they lie. Walder wheezed. Spare my house, I beg. Caitlin approached, face a mask of fierce sadness. You would have murdered my sons. Walder's jowls shook. Politics, my lady. Robb's voice cut. Kneel, Lord Walder, and confess revenge ends. The old man sank.
I confess me sin.
I yield. He glanced at Bolton soldiers dead. I shall pay silver, grain, whatever the king in North desires. Robb considered. Kill him, cause blood feud. Spare him, risk renewed treachery. Brynden entered hall with Riverlord pikemen then, having secured gatehouse. He gave nod of readiness. Robb made choice. You will travel under guard to White Harbor. Remain hostage until war's end. Fry banners now serve north under Roslin's regency. Guided by Edmure. He turned to Edmure, who straightened. You will ward your bride's kin with justice. Edmure exhaled. So swear I. Walder slumped. Caitlin clasped her son's hand. Raven dispatch prepared, recounting thwarted slaughter. Bolton treachery now clear. Ramsay to hang at dawn outside Twins. His father Roose yet at Riverrun, but now outnumbered by Manderley and Riverlords. In quiet side chamber hours before dawn, Robb sat with Asha, both spattered but alive. Grey wind slept curled near hearth. They drank warmed mead. Storm's crest broken, Robb murmured. For now, Asha agreed. But lion still snarls, and kraken Euron circles. We face them together. He reached, squeezed her scarred hand. She squeezed back. Salt and snow. Outside, first light of winter sun spilled over river, turning ice flows gold. Trumpets sounded funeral for betrayed vows, but Horn of North answered with call for dawn of new oath. Robb Stark rose, weight heavy yet shoulders straight, Asha at his side. They stepped into courtyard where freemen shoveled snow, where banners of wolf-kraken unfurled in crisp breeze, where destiny awaited beyond walls none yet dared imagine. Unity wrought in fire and frost would be tested by wars yet unbegun, by dragons rumored across narrow seas, by gods both drowned and old. But for this breath, for this heartbeat washed in winter light, salt married snow, and hope, thin, tattered, stubborn, gleamed like a blade freshly wet for battles to come.